I'm looking at the corner and it says off air.
Hello.
Right. Are we on air now? Okay, it says off air on my screen, but no doubt I'm waiting for Hangouts to catch up at some point. Now, at this point, because there's just the two of us, it is now just looking at you, and there's no one can see like at the bottom screen. No one can see like a preview thing at the bottom. So everyone's just looking at your delightful face, Alyssa.
Oh, I actually thought they were looking at you, Leonard, since you were talking.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, I will go with that then. You are the director on this particular show, so we'll go with that. I have no idea where we are with the time, but I'm guessing we're pretty much top of the hour.
We are exactly.
Near as damn it, so that's fine. So if that case, if I am talking and you can see my face, welcome to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana. I've got to remember where I'm looking because I'm currently doing this on my phone, so I can't look at myself. I've got to look at the camera. So yes, I've just got to make sure that that's happening. This is one of our outside broadcast reports because I'm going to do a live report from the convention I'm at this weekend. But first things first, let's talk to our host for this particular hangout and also my partner in crime on the Talkin Comic-Con podcast. So Alyssa Franks. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
I am well, recovered. Well, recovering, I should say. It's taken me a few days to get over New York Con, but processing everything that went on and starting to write my articles, starting to get back into the swing of things, starting up on projects for the downtime for the fall, which is really nice, really nice. Cool. And looking forward to your
my project. My little baby, yes. Well, we'll see how that develops. I'm referring to my SDCC. This is an app which is going to be a companion piece for anyone who's attending San Diego Comic-Con next year. We go to beta in about a week's time, so hopefully I'll be contacting the people who's going to be tearing the app apart. So looking forward to that. I don't know if you're wanting to help out with that, Alyssa, perhaps? Who knows?
Sure, absolutely.
I trust your opinion.
I would love to. I would love to take a look at it. I have done a bit of beta testing in my lifetimes.
Fair enough. Excellent stuff. Okay, and as for myself, yeah, I've had a very busy weekend. You joined me at actually in a side room of the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, which took place this weekend in Kendal in Cumbria. That's what I'm going to be talking about very soon indeed, after we do a little bit of a recap of some of the Comic-Con headlines, I suppose, or some of the bits and pieces. Certainly things that we kind of covered a little bit briefly on last week's show, because Comic-Con International did announce, or did not announce, as it were. They just made some changes on the notices page of everybody's member ID about the timings for what they've got planned for next year, the pre-registration badge sale, or the returning attendees badge sale, and also the timings for, potentially for the rest of the process to get your attendance for San Diego Comic-Con next year. As we announced, we did say that San Diego Comic-Con will not be holding their pre-registration badge sale this month, or indeed this year. On the website, it does actually say it's early 2017. Still a little bit vague there about what that actually means, whether we could be talking late January, early February. I know that there was a poll that was run on the forum. Yes. And what was the result of that?
I've got that up now. We have 2 votes for the 7th of January, 4 for the 14th, 7 for the 21st, 1 for the 28th and the 4th, and 12 for February 11th, which strikes me as odd because February 11th is also, I believe, Valentine's Day weekend. It's the long weekend here in the States. So
same here in the UK as well. So it could be an ideal Valentine's Day present.
Yes, but a lot of people will run into conflict with their significant others if they don't do something nice for Valentine's Day. So my thought was that it's going to be towards the end of January, but you know, a lot of people seem to be thinking the second date of January 21st. So it might indeed be then.
Okay, I really can't work out what on earth the thinking is so far on CCI's part, so I can't even begin to weigh in on this. I think, if anything, it is possibly going to be sooner rather than later, because they will want to try and have some kind of window. But if they leave it any later than middle of February, then CCI could be setting themselves up for a bit of trouble. So I'm hoping that it's going to be sooner rather than later. But there was that. The other announcement as well, I believe this was on the press tab of people who would have been applying for press. The press window for applications, if you are wanting to apply for the first time, or indeed get your second year reapplications in, that window will be opening sometime in October. So there you go, in quotes, is it sometime in October, which means we could actually be talking in the next week or so, couple of weeks. So we'll just keep your eyes on social media if you are wanting to apply for press this year. Keep an eye on that. And have we heard any word about professionals, or is that open?
I think ProReg is already happening.
So
I think
it was.
Yeah, a month or two ago. I do have a question for you with regards to press, since you're perhaps a little bit more familiar with it than I am. How much body of material are they looking for when you're applying?
A lot. They prefer to have. I mean, they've been very conscious of people that perhaps may report on comics or the comics industry and then only report on Comic-Con 1 week out of the year. They do prefer people that do discuss Comic-Con over the course of the 12 months. That certainly does help in terms of applications, but it is just sheer quantity. If you actually fill out the form and it actually comes to the point where you're thinking to yourself, this is too much, that's exactly how much you need to send in. That's pretty much the idea. I mean, if you are wanting to apply for press, just inundate them and show them that there is a body of work that that will support you. If it is just going to be 5 or 6 links, it's going to be difficult. It is going to be difficult for you. You're going to have. There's got to be some kind of legacy of work there, which you're going to have to kind of showcase. I mean, I may be wrong in terms of my experience with this. I mean, we may have some people who are watching who are pretended as pressed and haven't had that amount of links, but it may be quality if not quantity. You know what I mean? For myself, I just send them everything, and yes, that's how I apply.
That sounds good. Thanks for that information, because it's so different from organizer to organizer. Repop was looking at hits and statistics, and which was easy to supply, and versus CCI, which has a different criteria. That's good to know. I know.
I think that what they would prefer is people that aren't just going to show up and kind of talk about Comic-Con for a week, 2 weeks, and then disappear into the ether. They want a lasting relationship with the audience about Comic-Con. That's what they're after.
Well, I certainly do have that. Fingers crossed.
Likewise. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So how is Lake's doing?
Right.
Of Comic-Con.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll dive straight in because it's going to be a relatively short show. Because I have got an interview opportunity which I've got to disappear to. So we'll make this a relatively short show, but it kind of suits the show itself because it is 2 days or 2 and a bit days really. I came into town into Kendal on Friday afternoon. And the great thing about Kendal is it is just such a beautiful part of the world. It's this is Cumbria, the Lake District. This was an area of the country which was hit particularly heavily by floods last year, shortly after Lakes 2015. So much so that there was an actual an exhibition about the flooding at this year's event. It officially opened up with a panel which took place, which was actually sold out. We were very, very lucky to get ourselves tickets to go and see Asterix versus Tintin, Clash of the Toon Titans. It was very much a light-hearted debate about who was the best of the original kind of characters from that period. It was also a pretty decent lineup of people putting the cases forward. You had Benoit Peters arguing the case for Tintin, while you had BAFTA award-winning producer Peter Kessler doing the argument for Asterix. And joining them, you also had Walking Dead artist Charlie Adlard, you had Liam Moore. Those were both, no, let me work out who they were arguing for. Charlie Adlard was for Asterix, as was Graham Deary from Viz magazine. And then for Tintin, you had Liam Moore and you had Stuart Medley in there as well. You also had Luke and Steve McGarry, who are the father and son cartooning team. They're from Manchester, but they are currently living in Los Angeles. In fact, Steve McGarry is the chairman of the National Cartoonists Society, which I will come back to because it's important to explain why he was there. Very, very cool opening panel. And it was just a real slugfest. It was a little bit scrappy in places, and some harsh words were put out. But at the end of the day, it apparently came down to one vote. It was Asterix that won the clash of that particular Titans, which kind of says a lot because I actually did vote for Asterix. So it may have been my one vote that tipped it over the edge. Who knows? But it was a lot of fun. But in part of that presentation, there was also the announcement of the second UK Comics Laureate here in the UK. For the last 2 years, it's been Dave Gibbons, who's the artist behind Watchmen and a number of other books. Very good artist indeed. But he's been for the last 2 years taking on the role of Comics Laureate, certainly to present comics in schools and help with literacy. So that's been his focus for the Comics Laureate. At which point they then presented the title to the new incumbent, which happened to be one of the panelists, Charlie Adlard, who's going to be taking on the role for the next 2 years. He decided that his focus for his Comics Laureate is going to be for bringing comics to people who perhaps have learning disabilities, or young people with learning disabilities, with dyslexia, with various other learning disabilities. So that's going to be his focus of the his laureate. The other presentation that was made, and this is going back to what we were talking about before, is that Steve McGarry stood up and said that Lakes would be getting involved with the National Cartoonist Society in creating a new award. This is going to be an award that's named after Sergio Aragonés, and it's basically going to be a new award which is created between the two organizations. Certainly to as a kind of international cartoonists Oscar, if you will, and it also kind of fed into the announcement that Sergio Aragonés is going to be attending Lakes next year. So already we've got our first guest announced for next year's event. It says a lot about the organizer of this event, which is Julie Tate. She's done a number of other conventions, not relating to comics, but her now 15-year-old son is interested in comics. And off the back of that, because she also happens to be friends with Sean Phillips and a couple of other artists and creators, created this thing. I mean, this is in its fourth year now, And pretty much from the word go, it has become a very well funded, very well organized, and very well connected event, to the extent where, like I say, we've got this new arrangement with the National Cartoonist Society, and we also have, as of last year, you had their connection with the Toronto Comics Festival, which means you have some incredible international talent coming over to Kendal, as well as the UK talent going over to Toronto, which explained why we had some incredible talent like Seth, and we also had just some amazing sort of Canadian talent last year. This year, you can just see where Julie makes that connection, and is very canny in the way that she has aligned herself with some other organizations to allow Lakes to grow into this incredibly popular and dynamic show. So very, very cool indeed. On the Friday, I missed this as well, but this was Deadpool, which was introduced by Joe Kelly, which was very, very cool. But let me just go through the headlines of the things that I have seen this weekend, because I have done my best to record a number of the panels off the back of me recording some clips of some panels last year. I actually asked the Lakes if I could record entire panels, which I have done. So I am hopefully going to get these up, which include Duncan Fagredo, who's the artist for Hellboy. He did a watercolor sketch while being interviewed by Sean Phillips. So we got to see this incredible piece of work over the course of an hour being created on stage. Very, very cool indeed. At which point we then had Joe Kelly, who was being interviewed about his work from Ben 10, as the creator of Ben 10, as the writer of Deadpool, and also to his new project, his current project, I Kill Giants, which is currently being turned into a film. And while he's over here, it's being shot in Ireland. So he's going to go from this festival up to Ireland and also check out that particular production as well. I then saw the panel with Luke and Steve McGarry. Luke, I Am Your Father. Very, very cool indeed. Great to see that transition from a small town, from a Manchester newspaper cartoonist to somebody who now works with Illumination for the Minions film, and just somebody who's really kind of grabbed every opportunity in his life to sort of go on to bigger and better things. And then to wrap things up, there was something called The Dark Knight's Return, which was a four-way artist face-off, which was absolutely stunning, considering that it was you had let me just get the names right, because I want to make sure there was everybody, because there was Sean Phillips, there was Mick McMahon, there was oh man, this is really going to bug me now. Because there was a change. There was somebody who wasn't able to show up. I know Rufus Dago didn't show up, but just great to see live sketching and artwork being created live on stage. It was just very, very cool indeed. Oh yeah, that was it. Johnny Benet, who's from Argentina. Legendary comics creator, got roped in at the last minute, and what was absolutely hilarious was Geordie is the kind of guy that the host gave 14 minutes to create a piece of work, and there's Duncan Fagredo doing his artwork or whatever. Geordie Benet, if he's done in 8 minutes, he's just gone, I'm done. I don't need to do any more to this. I'm finished with it. At which point he will then put the paper to one side and do another one. And you're just thinking, this is master artists, just absolutely stunning to watch. So that was on Saturday, and then today has just been a very emotional day. Unless there's any questions, let's just stop there. Is any comments that have been coming in?
No questions about Lakes at this point.
Okay.
People have been
is it more about what we were talking earlier? Yeah.
People were commenting about that the audio was fine. Angela Copley did say that Pro-Reg deadline was October 10th. So if you're listening to this, I wanted to apply. You're too late. Also, that she also mentioned that that February 11th is not a long weekend this year. The long weekend is the following weekend. So I stand corrected. I don't actually follow the whole Valentine's Day thing. So
yeah, yeah, it's still very. This is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be debating for some time. Not necessarily the weekend that they choose, but just why they're doing it in 2017. I think that's where a lot of conversation is happening.
Yeah, my inclination is to think that the reason why is because if it seemed to go so well last year that there was no real reason to put it all on hold, and they might as well just have them back to back this year. So I'm thinking that there's only going to be there'll be a short turnaround between the two, maybe 2 weeks, just enough time to iron out any difficulties that they have. But
at which point I just think to myself, hubris is a horrible thing.
Absolutely.
Totally. To put all this faith in this system which they feel is going to work.
Absolutely. But I will say, just to go back to your point about Lakes Region and watching some of these creators, I had an opportunity at Boston Con. They did a drink and draw thing. And there was a whole bunch of people, artists in there, and Stan Sakai came in, did his thing, huge thing, just massive piece of art that he did. 20 minutes, handed it in and walked away. It's just, he's done. He did his thing. So,
it's incredible when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, you just get to watch these people who are so adept and skilled at their craft that they just knock it out. And, those are the professionals.
Yes, very much so. I mean, my personal favorite for that one is Jim Lee. If anything, because Jim Lee is the guy that will 10 minutes in go, you know what, this might be the one that just doesn't work. I don't know, but I really don't know about this. Maybe I'll just try this line. I don't know. I just don't think this is the one I just don't think is going to work.
So
pulls that white pen, bang, 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 and he just does it.
Yeah. Speaking of Jim Lee, I picked this up at a New York Comic-Con at the post office thing. This just goes right back to his Wonder Woman on their cover. Just phenomenal. I mean, you just look at this and go, oh, that is so gorgeous. I'm not a big fan of I'm not your traditional comic book person that likes a lot of the female form. Yeah. Just gonna leave it at that. I tend to go the other way. Regardless, his work is amazing. And Jim Lee, but I'm sure that was not a 10-minute job. However,
no. But like I say, you kind of he's getting to the end of this thing, or the end of his sketching, and he's sort of like, he's just rattling through, and he's doing what he needs to do. And like I say, he's turning around and going, I just don't know if this is going to quite work. Then he pulls out a black felt tip pen or a white highlighter, bang, 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 and you just go, it's a masterpiece.
Yes.
How did you do that in like 20 seconds? How did you turn that around? Incredible, absolutely incredible. We have seen some great artists here. Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, speaking of con announcements, ECC, Emerald City Comic-Con, have opened up their volunteers. They call them minions, and this is a paid position. Plus, you get a badge. So it's if you're at all thinking about going over to do Seattle, I am actually planning on going to ECC this year too. So I don't think I'm going to volunteer just because I would to, because I have a feeling I'd get roped into an 8-hour shift, and that's more time than I want to spend. So I just want to make that out there. And the forum also is developing, speaking of CCI, is developing their own mission statement.
Really?
Yes. finally getting to that. So it's coming along well, and I think we've got a semi-fairly, good mission statement up on the forum too for people to comment on.
Fair enough.
How is your app coming? I mentioned that earlier.
Okay. Yeah. It's coming along. Like I say, it's going into a beta in about this next week. Just in case now of populating it with some data. and get all that sorted out. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So there we go. Right, just to wrap up then with my report on lakes, and let's do what I got up to today. It was a very emotional day, to be quite honest. We started off with something a little bit light and fluffy in terms of a Ben 10 extravaganza, which was introduced by Joe Kelly. What was really fun about that was this was first thing on a Sunday morning in a cinema, and it was kids who had gone along to see Ben 10. And there was Joe Kelly, the guy who created Ben 10, in front of them. And they were just throwing out all sorts of really cool questions. And they were just really getting into it. And you could just tell that Joe Kelly was having an absolute blast doing it. It was just fun watching him just be confronted with his target audience that were just absolutely loving what he was doing. So it was that was rather cool. We had, let's see, Brian Lee O'Malley has been one of the featured guests here this year. Obviously famous for Seconds and also for Scott Pilgrim, but also talking about his latest work, which is Snot Girl, which has been published by Image Comics. Covered all bases. Like I say, this Lakes has an association with the Toronto Arts Festival. And it was the organizer of that arts festival that came over. He was also Brian Lee O'Malley's old flatmate. So there was a personal connection there, and they had a chat about the old days and about how Brian Lee O'Malley gets into his work mode and just the basics of Scott Pilgrim into a live action, into the film, and how it then comes out just leaves your hands and goes out into the wider world as a different project. So that was rather cool. Managed to get in to see the character design clinic with Emma Vishelli. I'm a big fan of hers, so that was rather fun. But the highlight of my day so far has been a presentation of Dave McKean's Black Dog, which is the full title, Black Dog, The Dreams of Paul Nash. Paul Nash was a World War I artist, a landscape artist, fought in World War I as well. And it was very much, not just so much a autobiographical music, drama and art presentation. So it's very much a performance piece, as well as, I mean, there's Dave McKean. There was also a couple of musicians that were on stage as well as seeing his incredible art being projected up onto the big screen. It was incredibly powerful. Like I say, not necessarily just a autobiographical piece on Paul Nash, but also basically a treatise on the effects, both physical and mental, of PTSD. It was just a very emotional and very powerful piece of work. A privilege to watch it, really was. Yeah, and at which point I then went down to the Clock Tower, which is basically the town hall here in Kendal, where you've got 4 or 5 rooms made up of artists selling their wares. And I had a lot of fun just kind of like checking out the small press and seeing people selling their comics. A lot of fun just to kind of wrap the day up. It was certainly required after, it was a well worth palate cleanser after the Dave McKean piece, which was very emotional indeed. But all in all, I mean, just looking down the programming list for this year, while it hasn't been as full of, say, headliners as previous years, it's been very much a case of very high quality artists. This is certainly a comics convention with a slight difference. This is more fine art in terms of comics conventions. You wouldn't be getting your DC or your Marvel kind of people here. This is very much more indie press, slightly off the mainstream, but all master creators. This is more like attending a jazz club instead of attending your Woodstock of San Diego Comic-Con, if that makes any sense. So
It does.
This is more like a jazz festival. Hence the flat cap.
I lucked into a panel on it. What this reminds me of, in your description, reminds me of when I lucked into a panel at New York Comic-Con. It's a documentary called Batman and Bill, a story about Bill Finger's life and his story, and I had no idea, and it's just an in-depth understanding of these creators and what they go through, and you know, interacting with them. And I think it's brilliant whenever you're able to get that kind of an honest feedback between the audience and the person. You get to see what they're really like and what really motivates people, and you begin to understand that it's not so different than what motivates everybody.
Yeah.
You know, to create, and that's a wonderful thing. I'm glad you had that experience this weekend.
It's been a lot of, I will say it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see that documentary, actually, or see any kind of coverage of that, because Bill Finger's story is just one of those that not everybody knows about, and just the disservice that he was given while he was alive. And it's only been since his passing that there's been a kind of remuneration on that.
They showed the first 20 minutes of the I'm not sure if it's the first 20 minutes, but they showed a good chunk of the documentary, which is coming out on Hulu in early 2017.
I'd be up for seeing that. I really would.
Absolutely. And it's called Batman and Bill, and I certainly have a very, very different and negative feeling towards Bob Kane.
Yeah. The more you research Bill Finger, you certainly, you do.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, I know that Bob Kane's original take on Batman, and what we finally saw of the character once Bill Finger had gotten his hands on it, are two totally different things. And if there's anyone who should be properly credited for their contribution to the Batman legend, it's absolutely Bill Finger. So yeah, very much so. Yeah, that sounds fascinating.
It highly recommended, and I will certainly be talking it up on the Hangout and on the forum when that does come out, because I do want to see the full documentary on it.
Cool. So, speaking of things that you can see online, something got announced on the forum this morning, or late last night, which you can shake your head all you like. I want someone to tell me how it came out. Comic-Con HQ have posted, I believe, something like 60 or 70 of the panels for 2016, which is a sizable chunk of the content that you may have missed at this year's San Diego Comic-Con. So please do check out Comic-Con HQ's current roster of panels that they've posted. I'd love to know, because being based in the UK, I can't actually get onto Comic-Con HQ in a legitimate fashion. You have to kind of go a slightly more scenic route to get there. And to be honest, I haven't tried recently because I've been very, very busy until I mow down. However, it looks like I might have to do a little bit of looking into, seeing as a certain British invasion panel was posted this morning. So I want to see how that looks. I want to see how it actually came out, because I will admit that 60 minutes was a bit of a blur. So I'd like to actually see it with a slightly more level head, and see, and of course, the old rule that what was it? A camera adds £20. So I'd like to know how many cameras were pointing at me, because obviously, this is not £20 worth. This is more than that. So no, if you can go onto Comic-Con HQ and find the British Invasion panel, please let me know how it came out, and of course, let Comic-Con HQ know as well. That'd be cool. So cool.
Yeah,
I've got a panel on Comic-Con HQ.
Nice. I haven't even caught up on that bit of information yet, so that was news to me, even though it was reported on the forum.
There you go.
I do not read everything on my forum. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you have said that there's something that you want to talk about which I don't know about. So what was that you wanted to mention?
Well, it's just kind of interesting. I was able to get in. I was in the New York Comic-Con press this year, and was in the press room for The Expanse. And I just have to say, the more I learn about this TV show and the tremendous amount of material behind it, with the 10 books and the canon and the writers in the room, in the writers' room on a daily basis, informing the script writers about, where the show is going, and all of that. The more I learn about the show, the more amazed I am at it, and would highly encourage people to go back and rewatch it if they, and try it again. I am in the process of writing an article on it for it, because the whole press thing. Yeah. It's turning out to be probably going to be one of my longest pieces, which a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh no, because I'm a terrible writer, I have to admit. But
this is where a good editor comes on board.
Yes, I'm hoping. I do have two good people who work with me, Kevin, Doctor Who 42, and TJ. They both are excellent. But I'm hoping that we can kind of turn this into me and Michael P. Who has been on the Hangout. I'm hoping that we can turn this into something maybe in Southern California. And
okay.
That's probably all I should say about it. More of a fan-based thing, because I really recommend that people take a look at this show. I know it's hard to get into, but think Babylon 5, and think Joss, and think Firefly. I think, to my mind, and yes, this is the punchline of the article, but the ending conclusion, but it's like Babylon 5 with canon, with this tremendous wealth of backstory to it.
Wow.
So I can't say enough about that. Week in TV.
If you want to, away you go.
Speaking of television, we could go through and do that. It's an interesting week. There's not that much happening this week. Epix, EPIX, is doing a couple of shows tonight. If you happen to get this channel, I don't think I do on Time Warner Cable, but Berlin Station has got a show with Richard Armitage. Yep.
From Lord of the Rings and various others.
Mm-hmm.
Well, The Hobbit. Well, yeah.
It's an international spy series. And then they've also got another show called Grave.
Sorry, what was that called?
That's called Berlin Station, the one with Richard Armitage in it. He's an undercover agent who just arrived at the CIA in Berlin.
Okay.
So it could be interesting. I don't know anything about Epix, and I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear from it. Andrew English says, sadly, in the UK, we won't be able to see it. Oh, no. I'm not sure if he's talking.
Well, I do know that it's current. Well, if it's the same project that I'm thinking it is, apparently it is currently being pitched around a number of the UK channels, but apparently they're saving off until the Edinburgh Television Festival for a proper sale. So looking at Channel 5 or one of the channels over here, like USA Gold or something. Yeah, there'll possibly be someone picking it up, but for now, yeah, we have to wait.
The other show on Epix is called Graves with Nick Nolte, a former two-term POTUS. Tries to revamp his image, and it looks like it could be a little on the funny side. So it might be worth a recording it on the DVR and just seeing how it turns out. We do have a 2-hour season 7 premiere, not premiere, but oh, like here's what's going to happen in season 7 for the Walking Dead
right,
show.
Okay. Like a like a preview recap.
Yep, preview recap thing that's going to happen tonight. It's a 2-hour thing on AMC at, I believe it's at 9 o'clock. Then,
I
and here's
we apparently, I think we're going to be getting the premiere screened here in the UK on Sky at the same time as you get it in the US. So something like 3-4 o'clock in the morning or something.
So next Monday is going to be difficult for a lot of people over your way, I assume. I mean, a week from
Monday. There's going to be a lot of people ringing in sick on Monday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like here in the States for Luke Cage. Got it. Not a problem. One other thing that's happening this week is Dick Gently is happening.
Dirk Gently.
Dirk. I did it again. I've even got it spelled right on my notes, Brett. A lot of people saw this. They premiered the first episode at New York Con in the BBC block. A lot of people really liked it.
Okay.
I'll
give it a go.
It's just, I'm just saying that
I'll watch it. I'll give it a go.
I'm heavily looking forward to that one. So, otherwise, be aware that it is baseball playoffs, so a lot of stuff will get preempted, and timed out.
Go sports team.
Yeah.
Go sports.
I won't even talk about my fantasy football team last week, in which I totally forgot about it, and I had a whole bunch of people that on my roster that weren't even playing last week. So, oh well.
Oh man.
So that's it for me.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much us for this episode. That's great. We are kind of putting together our guest list for the next couple of weeks. We are going to be doing another one of these outside broadcast live report kind of things in 2 weeks' time when Thought Bubble comes back to the Royal Armouries in Leeds. It is probably one of the top 3 conventions that's held here in the UK. So looking forward to seeing what Thought Bubble consists of this year. Hell of a guest list. If you do get the chance to go to thoughtbubble.co.uk just to have a look at the guest list, it is just the talent roster is just absolutely phenomenal. So looking forward to that. Certainly, it's more the rock and roll convention. So very much up for that. So there we go. Do keep your eyes open on our Facebook page and our Twitter, and we'll let you know who we're going to be getting on the next couple of weeks' shows. Yes, Alyssa.
Sartre P has one question for you.
Okay.
What is your impression of the new Rogue One trailer?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll field this. I think it looks I think it looks absolutely stunning. It's one of those trailers which kind of does what you want it to do. In other words, it tells you the first third and then just doesn't say a great deal else. You don't know where it's going. I mean, you kind of know how it's going to end because it's Star Wars. We know where it goes. There's a big moon-shaped space station and it doesn't get blown up because, well, it ends up being there in the first Star Wars film. But I'm very curious to see how the rest of these characters pan out. They look compelling. I'm very excited to see what Mads Mikkelsen does in the film because he looks incredible in it. Everyone just looks top notch. I am thinking that perhaps they really could do with really selling the characters at this point. They really need to kind of let people know names and sort of start imprinting them, because otherwise it is going to be well, that person was doing that thing, and you need to cement the characters. That's what Star Wars did. That's what the original films did. You know the characters, you know their names, and I think that's what they need to do with this. But what I really like about it is that the tone is very different to the canon films, the episodes. This looks like a war movie, and I have absolutely no problem with a different tone, a different storytelling style being applied to the Star Wars universe. So this looks amazing. I still think that there is a shot in that trailer where we see the Death Star popping its cherry. I think we see Tatooine bite the dust, but we'll see how the film plays out when we do actually come out. I will be going to see that on its opening night, so looking forward to it. I mean, what have you seen it? What did you think?
I haven't. I probably have seen it, but I didn't really look at it. Sorry.
It wasn't Star Trek. It wasn't Star Trek. So
yeah, I was probably looking at television or something and got distracted. So Leonard, Andrew English says you're not going to be at MCM London.
I'm not, I'm afraid. I'm going to be tied up with app stuff and also lack of funds. So I'm going to be kind of taking it a little bit more taking it easier from here on in. I'd love to go. At the end of the day, I'd love the opportunity to go to every con going, but unfortunately, this is where funds kind of leave me bereft, unfortunately.
I understand. I'm debating going to the Rhode Island Con myself in the middle of November, and funding is indeed a consideration, very strong consideration for it. So I totally hear you, Leonard. Satra is laughing about your the summation of the Rogue One trailer. Andrew and Aaron Nebulous, I'm not even sure how to pronounce.
Aaron Navis.
Navis is saying that he wants to go to Thought Bubble too. So I would like to also, Aaron. Absolutely.
I mean, I would say out of the conventions, I mean, something that we are going to be talking about next week, and this may be one of our guests, but like I say, we're kind of waiting on finalizing it. There was news here in the UK about one of the major cons being cancelled, which was the NICE, which was a national convention that got cancelled off the back of London Super Comic-Con changing its date to the middle of September, which is making that summer season of conventions here in the UK very tight indeed. The reason why Jeff of the NICE convention cancelled, stating that he felt that it was unfair to the fans to have that many conventions in one time frame, because like we say, it's a very expensive thing to attend all of these events. And at least when London Super Comic-Con was based around the January-February time, it spread things out a little bit. So it was, I would like to try and get Jeff on to talk about the cancellation of that particular event. Watch this space. We'll see if we can get him on for next week. And that, I think, is pretty much us. I've got to go. So at some point, yeah, we're now just, I think it's time for us to wrap things up. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Alyssa. Where can people find you online?
At Friends of CCI for my Twitter, and friendsofcc.com for the blog, and friendsofcc.com/forum for the forum.
Excellent stuff. As for myself, you can find me on Englishman SDCC. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find us on YouTube as well, which is where I'd really like you to go, especially if you want to subscribe to find out more about the Hangouts and when and what we're doing with these. We are hoping to kind of ramp things up in terms of content over the course of the next couple of months, especially as we get closer to the app going live. But also, if you want to subscribe to see the panels which I've recorded here at the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, hopefully going to start getting those posted in the middle of next week. So there'll be certainly the Joe Kelly panel, the Brian Lee O'Malley panel, the Duncan Fegredo painting masterclass. I've done what I can to record full panels of a lot of these attractions here at Lakes. So do go to Englishman SDCC on YouTube and subscribe. We really would appreciate the support. And that's pretty much us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Under an hour. Fantastic. I know. Excellent. Right. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see you again for another Talking Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego next Sunday. Take care.